Again, a beautiful young girl with a family and community that adored her is abducted and brutally murdered. Why? How is it that this keeps happening over and over again, and we seem helpless to stop it? The latest gruesome discovery late last night in the case of missing California girl Sandra Cantu. The 8-year-old's body was found stuffed into a piece of luggage and thrown into a local irrigation pond.
The bag was taken from the water and transported to the San Joaquin County morgue, where it was opened. Inside the bag, we located the body of Sandra Cantu.
Authorities are conducting an autopsy today as friends and family try to come to grips with this child's incomprehensible death. Sandra's mother passed out and was hospitalized after hearing this horrific news.
This is an unimaginable loss for any parent. It's a very difficult loss for our community.
We will be determining the person or persons responsible for this reprehensible act, and we will bring them to justice.
Today, the search for her killer intensified as police executed a search warrant on a Baptist church just a stone's throw from Sandra's home. The eerie sight of crime scene tape around a church has everybody wondering, could there be a connection? We have a full panel of experts on board tonight. Dr. Bill Mannion, a pathologist and assistant medical examiner. Don Clark, former special agent in charge, Houston FBI. Gene Casares, a legal correspondent for the Legal Network In Session. Plus, Crystal Evans, a clinical psychologist with MomLogic.com. Also, Curtis Sliwa, founder of the Guardian Angels and a talk show host for ABC, as well as Sergeant Sheneman, public information officer with the Tracy Police Department, along with Eric Firpo, reporter at Tracy Press. Sergeant, we have to start with you. You just held a news conference a little while ago where you updated us about the church that was cordoned off with police tape, as well as the pastor. What did you tell the public?
I told the public that there had been some misinformation put out earlier today that the pastor was our prime suspect and that he was about to be arrested, and that is incorrect. There is going to be a search that's going to be conducted at the Baptist Church later today in conjunction with this investigation, and that we're continuing to ask for the public's assistance in determining who murdered Sandra Cantu.
So I'm understanding you to say you do not have a suspect, you're following various leads, and this pastor is not a suspect. So why are you going into the church?
Probable cause was developed through the investigation last evening that allowed a judge to sign a search warrant, and that's why we're going in.
All right, so just to recap, because these are developments that are changing very rapidly. Police cordoned off a church today, the Clover Road Baptist Church, just an eighth of a mile from the little girl's mobile home park. The pastor of that church confirmed to KRON that he was questioned by police and that authorities seized computers, phones, and other items from his family's trailer. He says his granddaughter played with Sandra on a regular basis, but that he had absolutely nothing to do with her disappearance. You just heard police confirming that he is not a suspect. I repeat, not a suspect in Sandra's killing, and he's not connected to the luggage. Of course, sadly, this poor child found stuffed into luggage. Let's go to Eric Firpo. He is the city editor at Tracy Press, and he has been following this case from the very start. Eric, so many fast and furious developments. What can you tell us about the search? Because apparently various search warrants were served and various cars were seized, various people interviewed.
Well, I mean, we can only sort of repeat what the police have said and what the people that we've talked to who have been searched. We've talked to a couple of people who have their homes searched. Next on the list to be searched is the church, which is just a few hundred yards from where we're standing. And the pastor of the church did live in the mobile home park. We don't know if his home was searched last night. He lives with his wife. But they did search a house in a home that had not been searched before in the mobile home park last night. So, you know, which one that was, we don't know yet. The search warrants are going to be sealed, so until they're unsealed, we're not going to have answers to these kinds of questions because, you know, unless there's a leak in the police department, they've been pretty good about not having any of those.
Farm workers draining an irrigation pond found the black suitcase, which hadn't been there when they filled it up more than 2 weeks ago. They immediately reported it to cops as being suspicious. Before the authorities even looked inside the bag, they did a massive sweep of the location, taking in evidence including footprints and tire tracks. They even mapped the entire area with a laser device. Don Clark, why the meticulous evidence gathering before removing and opening the suitcase?
Jane, just great police work, and I really applaud this police department. They have done a spectacular job of moving to find this little girl's body. First of all, you don't want to contaminate the scene that you're going to go into and get something out. You don't know what's there. It may be nothing there. In this case, it was a very unfortunate little girl that's in there. So they took very delicate steps to get to that, and they followed through with get to the church and get a search warrant. And I want to mention one other thing, Jane, with you being a lawyer and other lawyers on, that you know that how difficult it is to get a search warrant for any building, and particularly a church building, which tells me that they have some other evidence there that we don't know about.
Well, Don, thank you for promoting me, but I'm not actually an attorney. But I want to go to Gene Casares, who has covered so many cases. Tell us where this all began, the last time we saw this gorgeous little child skipping happily near her home, and bring us up to these latest developments, the tragic news of her death discovered.
Jane, it was March 27th, a week ago Friday. She came home from school. She told her mother she wanted to go visit a friend, and this is in this mobile home park, which is really an exclusive community, I think foreign to the outside. It's the mobile homes, an entrance and exit. She went to that little friend's house. We saw her skip away from her own home. Her own family had actually put cameras up because of some auto theft issues, and that was the last time she was ever seen. She went to that little friend's house. She did play, but after that, no one saw her again. And I think at this point, Jane, the big question, you hit it off the top of your show, what is the probable cause that led them to that church? If we look at the timeline, last night on your show, you showed that black bag, which is now being referred to as luggage, and it was daylight when it was found. And then we saw the crime scene tape around the church, which I think was the evening hours. So what probable cause did they get from that suitcase or from the execution of a search warrant on a home inside that led them to that church?
Yeah, but just to clarify, Eric, the police, did they not say in their news conference moments ago that the pastor is not connected to the luggage? Eric.
Well, I'm not sure I heard that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily heard that. I mean,
Jane, I think we did hear
you know,
that.
you kept saying, well, I mean, here's the thing. Jane, you kept saying, so he's not a suspect, but they're not really saying who is a suspect and who isn't a suspect. Tony Sheneman did not say the pastor's not a suspect. What he said was that there was information earlier today that was put out that he allegedly said this guy was a suspect, and he said that information is wrong.
Well, isn't that the same thing? Gene
It's not quite the same thing, because they're not saying, they're really not saying who is a suspect, who isn't a suspect. They're kind of leaving it wide open. So I mean, my interpretation of that is that this guy's not necessarily not a suspect.
But he's not necessarily a suspect. And
No,
so
that's true.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right.
I think it's a nuance. And Gene,
Sure.
do you want to clarify it a
No,
little bit
Jane,
more?
I think you're exactly right. And let's look at the facts. This is a church that is very close to the mobile home park. Traditionally, churches have been an open building. Anyone can go into a church.
Exactly.
Traditionally, churches are open. So it being a crime scene, I think we just have to look at the church itself is a possible crime scene.
Exactly.
at this point.
You're absolutely right, Gene. Anybody could have gone in there with this poor child, and it might have absolutely nothing to do with anybody who's associated with the church. Hang on. More on last night's tragic discovery in just moments. And, of course, I want to hear from you about this outrage, this obscenity.